Hi, I'm Alex Sabo, CEO of Jomar Life Research. Do you know that show Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee, where Jerry Seinfeld drives around in collector's automobiles and meets up with other famous comedians over some coffee to tell jokes? Well, this show is exactly like that. Not. Well, first of all, I don't have a collectible car. All I've got is this beat-up 1990 Mazda that I borrowed from a friend. Frankly, it's a real shitbox. Second, I know some famous comedians, but unfortunately, they don't know me. Lastly, we won't offer coffee on this show, but cheese may make an appearance. More on that later if you stick around. But this show will offer an opportunity to meet some of Australia's most accomplished biological scientists as they spell out how they made their key discoveries and share some stories from the lab. Welcome to Scientists in a Shitbox Spelling It Out. Let's go meet our first guest, one of Australia's most renowned researchers.
Oh, meet the dogs too, of course. He has the greatest dogs. Oh, hello. Not...
Hello.
Well, hello there.
Sir Gus Nossal.
Good to see you.
Such a pleasure to see you. Thank you for joining us for this activity.
It's a great pleasure. I've been looking forward to
The
it.
pleasure is all mine. Thank you.
Watch the step here.
Fine and dandy.
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
It's a diesel. We have to wait for the glow plug to warm up the engine. This is old school.
You must have worked hard to find a car as prestigious as this.
It actually belongs to an oncologist at Peter Mac.
A not very successful oncologist.
A very public-spirited oncologist. You're probably most well known to the general public for being the director of the Walter and Eliza Hall Institute for more than 30 years, if I'm not mistaken.
Indeed.
Yeah. But your original claim to fame and probably what led to your taking that position was you performed a very important experiment. You did the experiment that really provided the experimental proof, as it were, of Burnett's clonal selection theory.
Very, very much of the credit belongs to two people other than myself. My boss was Mac Burnett. Mac Burnett loved theorizing, and he was pretty good at it too. Mac had devised a new theory of the immune response, a very profoundly different new theory of the immune response. What is the most remarkable thing about antibody formation? The most remarkable single thing is the sheer number and diversity of antibodies that your body can make. How can such diversity of protein production, antibodies and proteins, how can such diversity of antibody-protein production exist? The theories of antibody formation, the only thing that people could think of to explain this diversity was that the antigen came in and the antibody molded itself against that template of antigen, much as some soft plastic would mold itself against a die. Now, that theory is not right, and it goes against the idea that proteins are only made at the dictates of DNA as transcribed into RNA. Burnett proposed this clonal selection theory. Antibodies might be natural substances already genetically inherent in the person that So I said to my dear boss, look, I can test this damn thing. He'd never ever thought of testing it to an extent. This is my theory, but had no way of testing. I said, I can prove to you that one cell from an animal that's been immunized with 2 or more antigens will either make one or the other antibody, or it'll make both. It's a very simple yes or no answer. It's got to be one of the two. Well, there was one little thing I hadn't figured out. The Institute was not very rich. Mac Burnett, being of Scottish ancestry, hated spending money. He hated spending money. So the only binocular microscope in the whole institute was Mac Burnett's own microscope, which was quite good. All the other microscopes were single eyepiece. If you can imagine what it's like, down looking at it down a microscope with just one eyepiece, not 2. Not very easy if you can do it for 4 or 5 hours a day. Secondly, would you believe that there was no microscope that had an inclined eyepiece other than these were all vertical.
You had to look straight down.
Look straight down. But anyhow, that wasn't going to stop.
So it was a test of doing this work. It was a test of your stamina, among
Exactly.
other things. Yeah.
Bacteria, to be able to be seen, in particular to see them swimming, required a form of illumination that is known as dark field. Dark field so that the surrounds look dark and the lit up bacteria are very brilliant electric yellow colour. And a dark field condenser is a very well known thing. There's nothing special about it except the multiple isolates didn't have one. So I figured out I'm not going to allow myself to be daunted by this. And I figured out that if I took out the condenser of the microscope, which is the part that focuses the light from underneath, and inserted a penny, a large Australian penny, in its place, I could manipulate the penny in such a manner that an arc of light shot up, which was a sort of a fair imitation of dark field illumination.
Can I ask, sorry to interrupt, can I ask you how you thought to use a penny? Would any other coin
Any
work?
other thing of a sufficient size, it would have had to be about the size of the condenser.
Right. Okay, so it was just any
So
old
sixpence,
coin. It didn't have to be.
I couldn't have done it in
Didn't have to-
2018. There would have been no coin big enough. Well, fortunately for me, the results of the study were very, very clear-cut. It was quite clear that one cell always made only one antibody.
Yeah, one could say that your clonal selection experiment was a singular discovery.
Well, it was a single cell, and the number of times that my wife and my family joshed me, oh Gus, he's only good at working with single cells. Don't ask him any questions about peptic ulcers or brain tumours. He only knows about single cells.
Two things that I know that I recall about this, or reading about this when I studied this when I was an immunologist myself, a young immunologist. And one thing that astonished me is that you did this so early in your PhD studies. It was literally in the first year or so.
Year and a half.
Yeah. And the second thing was that this was already your second Nature paper. You were 1.5 years into your PhD studies, and you've gotten a second Nature paper.
Gus, one might say that from the beginning, publishing important papers was in your nature.
Well, it was in my DNA, maybe.
I understand after discovering the structure of DNA, James Watson went to a pub to tell people that he discovered the secret of life. Did you do anything like that after making your discovery?
I wish. I was arrogant, but I wasn't that arrogant, I don't think. But
Let me ask you something, which is another thing that amazes me, especially about the early stages of your career. So, Joshua Lederberg, he was coming over to visit the Walter Eliza Hall Institute and work with Burnett, but he was already a very famous scientist.
he already was a very famous scientist.
And if I'm not mistaken, he actually won the Nobel Prize that very year, 1958.
He did.
How was it that your first year or year and a half of your PhD, first year at this time, how did you attract the attention? How did you convince Lederberg to pay attention to this young upstart PhD student?
I suppose, going back to my Jesuit days, 9 years with the Jesuits at St. Aloysius College, I was a pretty good debater. In other words, I loved arguing, I loved challenging, I loved asking him questions, I loved spinning idiotic theories of my own about his work and that sort of thing. And I think that attracted him. And then, of course, when I came up with this idea for testing the kernel selection theory, he thought that was Christmas, because he was indeed enormously intrigued by Burnett's theory. Most of the definitive papers, there were quite a few of them in the 50s and 60s, were single author papers by me, which would be very unusual today.
Yeah.
In the days book.
It's also kind of amazing that Burnett as well. I mean, he was your supervisor, and these days the supervisor's name always appears on a publication, no matter how much, in general, no matter how much work he does.
Yeah, so right.
Yeah, it wasn't. He didn't even think about asking to be.
Exactly. Our convention in those days was to acknowledge the boss of the lab with a little phrase as a postscript, something like, "I wish to acknowledge the useful discussions and clever ideas of Sir Gustav Nossal as new contributors to this work." It would not have occurred to Burnett to put his name on a paper where he hadn't done at least a third of the work.
Gus, you've achieved many things. You've been given many awards and honours and stuff like that. You've been Australian of the Year. You've had the institute named after you. You've also had a high school named after you. You won the James Cook Medal. You won the Koch Gold Medal. You're also a Fellow of the Royal Society of Victoria. You're listed as one of the 100 Australians identified as Australia's living national treasures. You're a recipient of the Centenary Medal, and you're also a part of the Monash University Golden Key Society. My question is, what else have you achieved?
Well, John, before you get too carried away with this terribly uninteresting list of honours, let me tell you about a very good friend of mine called Jerry Edelman. Jerry Edelman hails from the Rockefeller Institute in New York, now the Rockefeller University in New York. He's certainly one of the most brilliant people I ever met. He's also a Nobel Prize laureate. And for some odd reason, maybe because I want to be a professor there or something, he ran across my CV. He said, "Gus, what is all this missing, all of these honours?" And I said, nonsense. He said, "Well, I know, but you know what the answer is? They run out of people to give these things to, so they give them to the ones they already know about," which I think is very true. One that has caused a fair bit of intrigue is when I was lucky enough to be one of about half a dozen scientists who had a postage stamp made of them, which circulated quite widely for quite a few months, to my major embarrassment. You'd get a letter and they'd still have stamps on in those days, and here would be my visage.
put your finger on the characteristics of truly brilliant scientists or the most successful scientists, Nobel laureates? Is there something in particular that sets them apart from good professional scientists or just ordinary people?
What makes a good to great, a very great scientist? I would say probably three things. First of all, of course, you've got to have high analytical intelligence. That pretty much goes without saying. Secondly, you've got to have creativity, imagination, the capacity for lateral thinking. You've got to be prepared to think just a little bit outside the box. And thirdly, this is the one that will surprise most people, you've got to have drive. You've got to have tenacity. You've got to hang in there. Nature guards her secrets very jealously, and if you don't really have the guts to stick with a problem, you will not make it to the very front of science. Now,
did you say you have to have the guts?
Guts. Yes, the guts. Gus has not quite enough guts.
I want to again, kind of now turn to a little bit your work, your time you spent as the director of Walter Lysol Institute. One of the things that has contributed to WEHI becoming, arguably the most prestigious research institute in Australia is the recruitment of top scientists that you were able to do when you were running the institute. What was you brought in so many top scientists, Suzanne Corey and Jerry Adams, Jacques Miller. What was the key to your success at recruiting such remarkable people?
Yes, well, you're quite right. You've mentioned three. I'd add to them a fourth for a different reason. Don Metcalf will explain that in a second. Jacques, by the sheerest of coincidences, and I genuinely don't believe this was nepotism, but would you believe Jacques Miller and I were school friends?
I did know that, actually.
He also went to St. Aloysius College. And then when I got this job, I said, the first thing I've got to do is I've got to persuade Jacques Miller to come back to Australia, because his discoveries in the field of the thymus were amongst the most pivotal in immunology and related disciplines, and he was in full flight.
I have to ask you something about Jacques Miller. Someone told me that recruiting him had partly to do with his science and partly to do with the fact that his mother made very special cakes that you...
His father.
His father?
His father made the most exquisite cakes, which I enjoyed greatly. And Jacques would kindly share his cake with me when we were having lunch. Now, Don Metcalf, I was going to say a word about it. Now, Don was in an anomalous position, because Don and Mac Burnett were frequently at loggerheads. You see, Don was the only one of us who simply would not tuck his forelock and pander to Burnett's egomania. He just wouldn't. And so there were a number of little contretemps I mentioned. One rather funny one at the moment. Firstly that, so they were not on very good terms. Secondly, Don was independently financed. Metcalf was essentially independent of Burnett, which Burnett hated. So he consigned him to a smelly little suite of laboratories, sitting on top of our animal house. That was the animal house for the large animals like sheep and rabbits and guinea pigs and a hell of a lot of things. It really smelled quite badly. And so the first thing, the second thing I did after the Jacques Miller was to offer Don a full floor in a refurbished institute Now let me tell you the funny part of the Don Metcalf story. Mac, as I say, had seemed to have this need to have his ego more or less constantly fanned. And one fine day, Mac got a Japanese honor. He got the Order of the Rising Sun. So he came into afternoon tea one day. Everything happened at afternoon tea. And he wanted to show us the medal. Just been to Japan and got the medal from Emperor Hirohito. He said, now you'll see that this is the Order of the Rising Sun, second class. But don't be disturbed. The only people who get the Order of the Rising Sun, first class, is the royal family themselves. He got this medal from Emperor Hirohito. And it was a beautiful medal. It was inscribed. And he said this was the time when Japan was on the economic rise. It was very well known for making shoddy, cheap goods. So he showed this medal to Don Metcalf and said, Don, you've had a lot of Japanese postdocs. Maybe you've picked up a few words of Japanese. Could you tell me what this inscription means? Don took the medal straight to me. Quick as a flash said, yes, Sir Mac, it says made in Japan. That was perfect, wasn't it? And he was so good at those one-liners. And of course, Sir Mac was not amused. Got into a terrible huff. The rest of the afternoon tea was silence.
I was looking through the Weihai, the book that they put together for the 100th anniversary of Weihai. And one thing that I noticed was that virtually every photograph of you, you're smiling broadly. Right? And in fact, if you, I looked at images of you on the internet, that it seems to be the same thing. Every case, you had a more subdued look when you were being knighted by the Queen. I noticed that. But everything else, you always seem to have this exuberant smile. And I just want to know. I mean, you seem like the type of guy where you've been so successful from early stages of your career, 2 Nature papers so early on, and then running Weihai at a young age. And has everything worked out for you in your scientific career? Are you that type of person that's just been so fortunate that everything has worked for you?
Tremendously lucky. I feel I've got, as you've mentioned, what most people deem a pretty successful career. And what you haven't mentioned, I'm enormously lucky in my family life, in that I've got a good wife who, quite contrary to Linda Burnett, doesn't listen my plans, listen my pocket, and try to blow me up quite a very good steady. When I get a bit too pompous, she'll pull me up very, very quickly. And wonderful kids. And we just have a very tightly knit, expanding nuclear family, 4 kids, 9 grandkids. And that provides a counterbalance to the professional life, which is irreplaceable.
Right.
It's so important to the integrity of the person. And then secondly, as far as being exuberant about the work, why wouldn't I be? It is partly my personality. I think it comes mainly from my mother, that I'm a bit exuberant, probably a bit over the top a lot of the time. But, life's been very good to me, and I feel I'd like to make life a little bit better for other people to the extent that one can.
is this?
Oh, Alex, I'm glad you asked. Here we have a genuine English Stilton. Over here we have a raw milk camembert, and right here my personal favourite, the smoked gouda, or in the Dutch pronunciation, smoked gouda.
No, John, I mean, why are you carrying a cheese platter?
Well, I thought Sir Gus would like a little refreshment.
No, John, we're not going to do that. We're here to interview Gus about his scientific career. We're not conducting a cheese tasting.
Maybe just a little Stilton?
No.
Gouda? All right.
John, what are you doing? Gus is in the front. You're in the back.
Oh. Can you help me close it?